So, I hope you had a good break. Really cool talks before me. When you're the last presenter, usually the audience is thankful if you are doing it the shortest, so you're closest to the bar. So my talk will be the shortest today. My name is Jordi Spranger. I'm here on behalf of Roboverse Reply today. And the topic is going to be public safety. And I will just tell my story, how we got into public safety, what we're doing there. It's also a lot of confidentiality in my project, so it will be really high level, but I'm really happy just to dive into it. So maybe let's start in. I will do a little introduction on us as a company and the offering, because I don't think that we are well known in Sweden yet. Or maybe other question, anybody knows Reply? No? Aha, the one that's been working with me. Okay. All right, just very briefly. So Reply is an IT consulting company. We're based in Italy, headquarters in Turin. And we are actually pretty big. So these are the numbers from 2023, which is here, I think. The head count is not shown, but it was around, down there, 14,000. I think we are around 15,000 people now. We do IT, digital service consulting, and we have a lot of divisions. And I'm in the Roboverse division, which means is we do mobile robotics, and we are the primary integrating partner for Boston Dynamics in Germany and DACH region. Which is not only Boston Dynamics, so we do all sorts of mobile robots. Maybe you've also seen the crazy robots from Unitree, the Chinese. They have a lot of going on, of Figure and so on. That's the kind of robotics that we work with. And let me show you a little bit what we're doing here. So all the mobile robots that we work with, they are platforms. And if you ever done anything with robotics, it's really just module-based. Yeah, so you have a mobility platform, and then you put all sorts of sensors on it as you need it. And this is kind of our offering. We integrate this a lot for big infrastructure maintenance and predictive maintenance and so on. And the way we got into safety industry is that we worked with the police in Germany. Germany is federal, and we have different counties. We're working with the biggest one, which is North Rhine-Westphalia. It's in the north. And here, for example, you have a case we did with the police and their innovation branch, where we use mobile robotics with the bomb defusal team and our VR, XR expert team. And we developed a solution where essentially you can do remote bomb defusal, as well as X-ray imaging and these kind of functionalities. This is just one use case. So we're also working with nuclear power plants to do predictive maintenance on them. Also with water dams to check for internal leaks, cracks, and all these kind of situations. Also the port in Hamburg, for example, the big one. We do some maintenance here. And it's a really interesting field. So this is kind of the background of my company, what we're doing and how we got in contact with the police. But my work that I've been doing in the last half decade is more data science and AI driven. And as we got in contact with the police, we did, and we're still doing a lot of robotics use cases. But then AI and IT infrastructure, sovereignty, came more and more into importance. And this is kind of where we got in. And now this is like, today I want to tell you a little bit about the story on what is going on in the public sector in Germany, especially the police. And what is kind of the mindset, the thinking, and the high-level direction where it's heading towards. Yeah. In 2022, we took, or the police took into operations one of the largest private clouds, which I don't have the exact numbers because I cannot disclose them, but it's really big. And essentially, it's the reason behind that. So you can always make this make or buy decision, right? And also what the presenter said before me, if you're buying like a sovereign cloud from US providers like Azure, GCP, AWS, and so on, you are dependent, and also you don't have this legal certainty guaranteed that you're really in charge and will be in the future and will be supported in the future. So this is a big risk. And there were also a couple of other reasons. There's actually a paper for this project online that can be read, but this shows you a little bit the mindset that's going on currently in Germany. And here was a decision made back then to make a sovereign IT infrastructure. Back then, not AI focused. So 2022, you have to think it was taken into operations, which means it was planned probably a decade before, if you know anything about bureaucracy. But this is kind of the mindset. This is where it was set, and this is already the direction we were heading. And now I wanted to show a little bit the macroeconomics a little bit. If you look at the data growth in the world, it's exponential, and you can see that it's a chart that goes up a lot. And this also has, of course, impact on the security, public security. What does that mean? So the police has more and more data that they need to process, or that they should process to follow up with crime. For example, in the internet, there's a lot of digital crime happening that just cannot be tracked because you don't have the resources. And the type of crime and evidence material and leads you should follow up with, it scales with the data. And you can see that even if you have the largest workforce in the world, eventually you will not be able to match the curve, right? And there's another major thing, which is the distribution of the population by age, right? So we have the baby boomers, and I don't know, any boomers here in the house? Well, all right, that's good. Well, they're a big part of the workforce, right? And you can see now that they're slowly heading to retirement, which is also not good given the previous trend. So you're losing out on labor force, really. So that's another big factor. And then the third also big factor is that in all and everyday life, if you're a citizen, and Sweden is actually pretty good with that, I know the Scandinavians are leading with that, is the digital services you can get in the public sector are really quite mature. In Germany, not so much. So we're really lacking behind that. And if you look at the private sector, right, DoorDash, WhatsApp, whatever, not, it's an on-demand service. You want it, you need it, and there's really no reason why you shouldn't have it. Yeah, and the same should be applied, and is also the expectation growing in the population towards the government and government services, public services. Yeah, so these are kind of three macro trends that we have to take into account, that the police is taking into account. And if we think about it reasonably, the only answer to this is really digital services, automation. Yeah. And this is what I want to talk about for today. So we're currently in the progress to take the 2022 IT data center that the police has built and advance that further, that it can actually meet these demands, and also meet these demands with advanced automation. And advanced automation is mainly based on data science, AI features that can really allow you to do automation on a mass scale, or supportive automation on a mass scale. This is really already where my slides end, because I cannot share so much, but I would really like to talk through each of these issues that we're currently facing and tell you a little bit about what's the journey been with the police at the moment. So the first part is the legal and regulatory challenges are pretty big, and we are still quite behind with there's something called Datenschutzbeauftragter in German, which is data protection responsible responsibility, and such jobs where people have to kind of give an okay for services if they are in accordance with GDPR and itself data protection and that sort of stuff. And this is currently, there's not so many people that can really push for that. There's a huge awareness of risk avoidance. So you really need to get people that can take charge, that know their stuff, and that they can give a seal of approval. Because without a seal of approval, in Germany, you will not be able to get anything on the road, really. So we're really lacking here. We're building up our competencies. And yeah, I will get a little bit more into how can we actually achieve that, because this is a systematic problem. And for that, we need tools. And this is something then where we go a bit technical. The second thing is data and model governance. So currently, data, the way it's being handled in Germany is you basically cannot use it because you don't have processes and tools that allow you to do it in accordance with what you should do. So there's a huge blockage here, and you're just really being, you cannot actually execute on your ideas. Then the technical infrastructure challenges. This is something quite interesting. So from the public data center that we had in 2020, we have a legacy operation model. What does that mean? So if you want to get something done and you are a user, you want to get an application into services, then you need to make an IT desk ticket. And the platform owners and operators, what will happen in the background, they will receive a ticket in a ticket queue. They will see your request. They will eventually work through it and then process it. And then maybe your service will come into live and you can use it. But then it's just statically available and you cannot do much afterwards anymore with changes, really. And that's a problem because there's a really long time window between making this ticket and actually using the service. And if we know anything about AI and data and the agility aspect of it, this is like a non-acceptable organizational IT operation service. Yeah? So if you work this way, you will most likely disappoint everybody who will use a AI service that is somewhat attached to a dynamic distribution of the process it's trying to map. So it's trying to chase some goal. If the goal changes, it will be totally useless in like a week or two, but you will need another month or two to update it. So this is a struggle that large organizations have, and this is just a form of, is your organization actually AI ready? Like, do you have the processes and are people enabled to actually get the functionality ready? And that's currently a big problem. If you look at the public sector, people cannot be fired. They have this legacy model of doing a data center, and we have to change that. And that gives a lot of friction and a lot of politics. And usually the boomers, don't really help in this sense. And here, besides actually doing it technically with tools like HopsWorks, there's just a mindset shift that has to happen and an organizational structure where we enable teams to actually perform and be able to do their job. And the way we've been trying to address that is we've been looking at the cloud. If you look at the cloud, it's all, the terms maybe MLOps, DevOps, infrastructure ops, perhaps. And what does it really mean, ops? Yeah. So ops in itself, the core principle behind it is that you have an expert team that can provide you with tooling, but this tooling just enables people to get their job done. That doesn't mean that there's an IT ticket for an expert that actually does the work for you. He just gives you the tooling that you can actually do your job by yourself within a well-defined rule set. Might sound complicated, but let's look how Azure, AWS, GCP does it. You log in, you have a console, you have a roles and rights access profile, and then with this profile, if your admin allows you to book virtual machines, databases, whatever, you can just, within the realm of scope that you can act, you can book it yourself, and then you can just do your work and allocate the resources as you need, and you are enabled to do your work. And this is something where we need to get the police or also other German institutions to get going, where they enable teams to really do the work themselves, but within the rule set that a public organization needs to fulfill. Speaking about governance, audit, security, access, isolation, failover, and so on. So this is a big challenge, and this is something that general organizations, public organizations, institutes have to change towards. Okay, then the cybersecurity and isolation. So for the police, it's obviously very important that we have the maximum security on our data. Why? We work with child pornography. We work with very high sensitive data, and we need to have the sovereignty and the ownership of this and the protection that we can work with this data. And that's why sovereignty and our own infrastructure is crucial. Yeah, that's just a requirement politically. Then furthermore, the talent and capability gaps. So after the police made the decision that we should make our own infrastructure and own data center, there is a gap between teams that know, let me phrase it this way, expert teams that can really get the ground running and develop a tool set, a platform as a service for users to develop their use cases and get intelligence in the police processes. And here there's always a question, buy or make, right? So actually, if you have enough time and resources, you can make a platform like HopsWorks or other tools, labeling tools yourself, and you can make them enterprise ready. But in practice, this is, of course, not really feasible. That's why when we looked for a software that can help us to enable us to have enterprise-ready software, we were looking at HopsWorks, and there in our case, they were really fulfilling our needs because they provide you with the enterprise capabilities of owning your data and giving the governments the security, the access on the data within an organization. And an expert team, which is doing platform operations, like a platform operations team, can then manage them and admin it. And but there's another side to this. The expert teams that we hire, they usually want to select their own tools, and they also want to build a platform that is ready for the organizational needs. And there's a differentiation besides HopsWorks. There's also other providers like IBM Watson X, HPE with the Emerald analytics software platform, and they have a bit more of a philosophy of a log-in or a platform that should cover everything and is not so extensible. What we found is that in the area of MLOps or machine learning itself, it has changed to the side that open source tools become more and more available, and that the future is really a little bit uncertain. So, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, the kind of frameworks and tools that existed and that a platform would like to use to provide their services has changed drastically. So in the future, our expert teams that do develop and administrate the platform, they also want to have the flexibility to extend the platform as they need it. And for that, you really need software solutions that, if they are part of your platform, provide interfaces to be extendable programmatically. And this is not a given, and for HopsWorks this was the case, and that's why currently we're exploring the opportunities with HopsWorks to be part of our platform, to grow with it, and eventually in the future when there's changes in the AI scene and the open source tooling scene, that we can extend our platform accordingly. Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say today. I wanted to also leave a couple of minutes for a discussion, because this is public sector. If there's any questions, I would really like to take them and discuss them here as a panel as well. Yeah.
So if there was the option to not have a completely private cloud, but a European-owned or provided cloud, would that be an option for the German police use case?
It depends really. So the police themselves, they would like to have the ownership over the infrastructure. So probably as of today, the political will is really to own it. Yeah. And to extend it. Anything else? Otherwise, yeah.
Sure. I've lived in Germany for a couple of years, so I'm very familiar with the German philosophy. And Sweden's very different, right? So Sweden, I think I saw in Denmark, I mentioned earlier, Denmark would go down in 2 hours because I think 30% of their email runs on Microsoft. In Sweden, it's 65%.
Okay.
And in Germany,
congratulations.
It's like 2%. It's much less. But what would you say to people? Germany is the motor and engine of Europe. What efforts are Germany making to kind of make this leap? I hear the term Luddites. Germans are Luddites. They don't believe in technology. What internally in Germany, where's the culture going? Where are people thinking that we're going to go?
Yeah, the 2% outlook you said is because the rest is fucks. Well, the mindset is really going towards we have to be more European. We have to be more independent and sovereign. It's just also the political climate. In the end, the public services are a execution of the political will. Yeah, so this triples down. There is a strong sense that we have to have a success story, right? So America is driving a lot of success stories with their public clouds. They're totally dominating. I don't know what SAP cloud share is, but I would say it's probably single digit or less. And what we need is, there is the will, there are the funds, but what we need in Europe is we need to have a successful example of a sovereign cloud that works and really provides the services that are excellent or very good. And once we have this breakthrough where we can have this, I think it opens the doors to really extend to different countries, governments, political organizations. I know that we try to always be in touch with other organizations within Germany, also outside of Germany. And the problem is really people don't know. Yeah, people don't know what the options are. And even if they know the options, for example, HopsWorks could be a good solution for them to work with, they don't know how would that fit into their overall strategy. So they really need guidance on how do you actually use these tools? How do you make a successful story? How do you not have data breaches and all that? So there's a lot of learning.
So I guess many people have heard that Germany are going to invest 200 billion euros in defense. When I heard that, I was like, okay, we're going to build the European cloud. I mean, your guys are going to build it. Is that the mentality that money? I mean, Americans, as we all know, DARPA, in the American Defense Agency, invented the internet. They've used a lot of their money to invent a lot of the digital infrastructure that powers our society is defense money. And I'm just wondering, in Germany, is their mindset that the money that will be invested in defense now will also be used to digitalize infrastructure? I mean, to build the European digital infrastructure. Yeah. Is that part of the goal, do you think, or is that not? Or is it mostly just the Ukraine war?
Yeah, I think there is no. So there's no public statement to that. For that, but what my feeling is working with this is there is definitely a shift towards this. However, the feasibility is somehow not clear, which is ridiculous because we have really good engineers, we have really good people, but usually it's less of a can we actually do it with the right people and more of a leadership problem that there's some uncertainty on what the right decision is. That's why I would come back to the success story. So we really need a European success story of an AI/digital services. AI is just a tool to get you to digital services, but we really need a working prototype of a success story for digital services that's scalable, and then I think this will trigger the justification for a lot more that people really want as well on a political level.
I'll just add, because many of you will note that we had one and we lost it. It was Apache Flink. It was developed here in Stockholm originally, taken over in Berlin, and now the Chinese. All of Alibaba, everything runs on Flink. It's European, Berlin-based tech. But anyway, and hopefully we won't make that mistake again. There was a question over here.
So how much do you see the hindrance in Germany as being the lack of a sovereign platform versus the lack of German models, for example? And do you see that sovereign platform as being a prerequisite to building German models that would be hosted and trained?
You mean models like LLM models, or?
We could say LLMs, sure, but models with, let's say, German context. LLMs, if it's suitable for the question.
Sorry, can you repeat it one more time?
So right now in Germany, how much is hindering Germany for doing the things they want to do? How much of that is having a sovereign platform versus having a German contextual model, whether it's an LLM or whatever other model might need German contextual information? And do you see the sovereign platform being a prerequisite for solving for building a German model? And again, LLM, if that's the easiest example, great. We can.
So I mean, there have been initiatives. Jim, you said it before, Aleph Alpha. Yeah? Actually, we were interested with working with them, and they had a crazy amount of funding, but something went wrong. And that's the success story part. Sorry if I repeat myself here, but it seems like the funds, and there are funds. I mean, Germany is pretty rich. We have low debt. We can afford something. We spend a lot of money now on the war budget. It just is missing somewhat on a success story. There have been actually some German initiatives for LLMs and models and such as well, but they have never been that well funded. And in return, there is, I'm really, for me, it's also a bit confusing. I think it's, that's just my feeling. I just think the people in leadership are so unfamiliar with the matter that they make really terrible decisions. Yeah, because what was the funding for Aleph Alpha?
I think they raised like 600 million or 700 million.
I mean,
euros.
How can it be? You're in Heidelberg. This was in Heidelberg, Aleph Alpha, really good university city, also beautiful city, good to visit. But you have so much funding, and basically you don't get done anything significant at all. Or even though anyone who's an AI engineer here, it's really not that hard to build an LLM, right? Like, I mean, the model architecture is pretty clear. The type of data, it's pretty clear and available. I don't know where, it just doesn't make any sense.
You're in the right building to ask.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I also worked on it myself a little bit, so I also have the first-hand experience. But I just feel like what is the saying? Something like, you don't have to be afraid of an army of wolves led by a sheep, right? But you should be afraid of an army of sheep led by a wolf. And that seems to be sometimes a problem. Also, in the organization, like in the police force, there's definitely progressive parts, and there's people that totally reject the idea of ever doing that at all. So they're like actively fighting against it, which you have in all the organizations. But it seems to me that this is over proportionally existing in Germany. And this is very unfortunate, because probably if you would have the same funds directed to more progressive leadership places, you would also have a lot more fruits by now, or faster step of progress. Yeah. Any other question? Otherwise, yeah.
Just one more. I'm already seeing progress, because Gaia X was the old infra platform. These systems, well, they brought in Huawei to build it, so that was kind of problematic. Now you're actually looking at use cases. Already that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing you're maybe not using Gaia X or the T-Systems platform for the base
Well, I cannot comment, but you know, yes. What I do think, we can still take questions, but maybe something that is quite interesting is what gives me a little bit of hope is that in this organization of the police now, and itself AI, is quite a different new technology trend in the way it's being perceived. For example, I was sitting in the train the other day, and there were two middle-aged women, and they were working in audit, and they were talking about ChatGPT. So they are aware of that there's something really cool to be done, and this is really a trend that is such a massive mainstream conversation now that there's so many initiatives from not from all the way up, but from middle to lower level positions in the police that say, hey, I saw this, I think we can do something really cool on my process that I'm supervising or that I'm in charge of. And I have now, for the police, made a backlog, right? If you're a project manager, you know your backlog. Usually you put things you don't want to do in there ever, but don't want to reject. But it's a really long backlog with like over 200 initiatives of people within the organization saying, hey, I really want to use it. Hey, I can really do something with it. So instead of the typical, and it was just maybe also Jim's job a lot of the time, he's the ultra expert, right? And he's trying to convince you like, this is a great tool, you will benefit so much. This is a sales pitch that is coming from the company to the people. But what I found with the AI side is really that people have discovered it, and now they're actually asking for it from within the organization, which makes my job a lot easier. But I think it's quite nice to have this trend because in the end, you need to have organizational readiness and change. And that happens within the organization. And that's a very nice and a trend that I really applaud. It's really nice that this happens. And this is also very promising that whatever we're going to build for the police in after 2020, the AI cloud, so to speak, that it will be actually used, right? The worst thing is you have some cool tool, but nobody cares. Like, but I don't see that happening. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, and that's great for everybody who's in the tech right now, I think. And also just to really give a benefit to the public that we're going to have a better police service or public service or other private sector service.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordi.
You can